Today's episode is sponsored by No Strings Attached e-News, your premier online magazine with interesting and informative articles from lifestyle, entertainment, and news worldwide. Visit the website to find out what's buzzing on nsaen.com. Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Today's guest is Cindy da Silva, owner and partner at the Rocks Management and a driving force behind the legendary Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band, the Zombies. Cindy's journey is a masterclass in vision, resilience, and believing in artists long before the world catches up.
Cindy da Silva, welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Great to have you. You know, Cindy, you've described yourself as someone with an ear for great music. When did you first realize that you had that instinct, and how has trusting it shaped your career?
I've always loved music. I had a transistor radio back in the day and would sneak it from my preacher dad and play music underneath my bed for a very long time. And then it finally, I had a whole life, children, career in the public sector. And then one day I just heard a band that I'd gotten married. My ex-husband had a recording studio, and there were a lot of people that came through that I was not astute enough to enjoy. Let's just put it that way. It was a very indie rock scene in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I was a very mainstream girl. So as one day I got lucky and the right person walked in the door. I remember walking up the 5 flights of industrial stairs. And so it took me quite a while to get up there, and I just kept hearing this really wonderful voice. And that person ended up being my first artist. Or half of my first artist, because my first artist was actually a band called Two. Worst name in all of history to try to get PR for, but they were called Two. So yeah, I'd say that was probably 25 years ago.
Well, you know, I'm going to go a little bit out of order here because it's going to connect. So you end up with the world famous The Zombies.
Yes.
And before we get into some of the beginnings, I have to jump into this right away. So my wife has been a Zombies fan since the early 70s, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I never know bands. I only know a song. So she'll say, I want to go see so-and-so. I never heard of them. And then she'll sing 3 songs and I'll say, well, why don't you say so? So, you know, I didn't know, but we went to see, has to be 25 years ago, the Zombies were at Hippie Fest. And I think, and they performed. I said, oh my God, I like these songs. And I know these songs.
Sure.
And so I went, snuck off, and I got my wife a CD, a signed CD, and of their album. And you weren't with them back then.
No,
and
I started with them in 2013.
Yeah, so
my now husband and partner, Chris Cuthill, was already working with them as their booking agent. He was their North American booking agent at that time.
Right. So yeah, and I know you guys work as a team. That's phenomenal. And but listen, they as great as they are, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And you did something that I heard them say in their acceptance speech. I know that this would probably not have happened without you and Chris. So getting this inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was a monumental achievement. Beyond well-deserved, but people don't always get what they deserve. So what did that moment represent for you personally after years of dedication to their legacy? And your husband started well before you were in the picture.
Huge amounts of elation. Like, I was just so thrilled. I think that the times before that, when we were nominated and we didn't get in, I was crushed more than the band was.
I'm sure.
They would handle it like, the Englishmen that they are.
Yes.
They'd be like, "Oh, well, thank you, Cindy. It was very nice," but then when we got in, I just got so excited, and I got to call each one of them
Oh.
and go, "Are you sitting down?"
Mhm.
And they were thrilled. And so it just made me so happy because honestly, they deserved it so much. And up to that point, I don't think they knew how their peers felt about them, how the world felt about them. You know,
It's
it they felt like failures.
it's
And
yeah.
in my book, that just couldn't be.
It's very weird. Thanks to you and to Melanie and people on your team, I've gotten to interview Rod Argent and
Mhm.
Colin together, and then separately. And I have to tell you, it's almost like in some spheres, the world's best kept secret, which I don't get because their music is so phenomenal. But you said it before I did. You said, well, they went into their Englishman mode.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't, to this day, I don't know if they know how great they are. I honestly don't because I saw them in Virginia with my wife and another couple, and we had backstage passes. Thank you very much. And I went in, and Colin came out, and he said, "How did we sound?" And I said, "What?" I said, "Are you having trouble with the sound system?" He says, "No, how did we sound?" I said, "How do you sound? You're like a machine. You sound like you did 20 years ago." And he said, "By the way, I think you're singing in the same key." He said, "Oh, we
Yeah.
are singing in the same key."
Yeah.
And, when you talk to them, so humble, and I
Yeah.
could see them, me, if I were a star and I got turned down for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something, I'd be in therapy for 6 months. Them, I could see them saying, "Oh, don't worry," and I could see you crying for 2 weeks.
I
And
didn't get out of bed the
yeah,
last time for like
you
2
know,
days. I
you
was
you
pissed.
might need some medication. So
Yeah.
it's just incredible. So we're going to talk later about their incredible festival, but you talk about the kind of demeanor they have, and you talked
Mhm.
about what were they called? The Two. What was the name of the group that you first started with?
Two,
There's two. It's funny because you
the
said
number two, nothing else.
yes,
Not you two,
yes.
not,
Well,
you know.
when you said, because it's funny because you said
Yeah.
before you said it, you said, well, one of the group there, it was only half. It was half because you were talking to one and it was two. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the other artists and juxtapose the Zombies and what they do with their festivals and their meet and greets and things of that nature. You work with legendary producers like Tom Dowd, Arif Mardin. What did being around that level of musical excellence teach you about leadership and, more importantly, longevity?
It's funny, Tom Dad said something to me the week that I met him. Um, I was in the music business for 30 seconds, it felt like. And somehow from my from attending my first South by Southwest, I got a phone call from Tom Dowd saying, I want to work with your band. And when we were in the parking lot of Criteria, which is the Hit Factory, right? In or whatever it's called these days, who even knows? But in Miami, I remember him sitting me down in his Lexus before we went in to record, and he said to me, um, "What's your instrument?" And I said, "What? What do you mean? Like, I don't play an instrument at all. I'm just," he goes, "No, no, 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 Cindy." He's like, "Find your instrument." He's like, "You are a good manager. You're a great manager," he said, "but there's more to it than that. There's more creativity for you to find." And I've been looking for that ever since, by the way. It's just, and I feel like some of that is this festival that I'll talk about in a bit. But really, just being in his presence, I was lucky too because I feel like the people that I was first introduced to were greats, but they were of the humblest kind. I feel like that's always prepared me for where I am today. Tom was a kind, genuine human being. Arif Mardin was a sweet man, who asked for my opinion, and same with Tom, and which blew me away. I remember being in the studio with Tom, and he said, I'm gonna work on this song and that song, this song next. What should I do? And I said to him, excuse me? What do you mean, what should you do? You're the legendary producer. And he said, no. He goes, Cindy, I know what to do to record, but you know the personalities.
Mm-hmm.
How do I deal? What am I up against? And that just clicked for me. And I was like, oh, okay, well, so-and-so is jealous because you're working on so-and-so's song. So you might get a little resistance there. This one, the one whose song you're working on is nervous as hell. So you might find that, you might need to calm him down before you get the best out of him, that kind of thing. And so that's how I started. Like, there was no, like, extra fake or fakeness or even like added attitude or anything like that. They were just the most humble, normal human beings. The same thing happened with Arif. I was lucky enough to work on his last record with him, and he was incredible in the studio. He was so patient, but he knew exactly how to get the best out of people, to get the best out of the song. And, him and his son Joe were huge influences in the beginning of my career. I owe a lot to them. I almost worked with Joel Dorn. This is something I don't usually say, but Joel came to me. I came to Joel because I had an artist that I really wanted him to hear. He's the one that got away.
Okay.
Circumstances did not work out. He ended up leaving the country and not being able to come back in for many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I took Joel to see him, and Joel fell in love with him, and we were about to work together, and then he passed. So it was one of those things, I think when you start off with that level of talent, and I'm talking about the producers because their talent was massive, but still that humble attitude, you take that too, like I learned from them. So that's the kind of attitude I took towards my next job. And then I also made sure that I absorbed everything about the industry that I could, because I was in telecom before that.
Mm-hmm.
Worlds apart. But no job was too small or too dirty I say dirty, like I'm talking, I worked a festival where I led a group of people picking up trash.
Mm-hmm.
I tried everything just because I wanted to experience every aspect of what happens in the business, or at least as much as I could. And then I just, fell into the right place at the right time, in the right situation. The zombies were like a gift. I went to work for a company called TCI as a contract administrator. I wasn't qualified to do that job. I was overqualified in some ways, but in other ways, I was underqualified because administration is not my thing. Marketing, all kinds of other things are. Administration, not so much. So I remember going there, and I was there for about 6 months, and the zombies came over to tour, and they said to me, the team said, so what did you think of the show? And I was like, well, that was great. And they said, but you have this look like, but. I was like, well, I think that, I think they're great, but I think they're being marketed wrong. I think they could be marketed to younger people and sort of like that indie hip secret, right? So they said to me, well, what would you do differently? And I said, well, for starters, I'd take them to South by Southwest. And secondly, I would change your opening act. you have these other older opening acts. We're opening for them, but they're not at the level musically that this band is putting out. So if you're not going to get that, then at least get the excitement of a young, hot band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I got a little pushback. They're like South by South, because it was basically a booking agency that had some management clients. So I definitely knew that we'd have to take a different attitude towards them if they were going to change. And so I did get some pushback, and I remember taking them to South by, and I remember one of the big moments of pushback was Waterloo Records. They're like, Waterloo Records on, I said, I got them Waterloo Records on a Saturday, at noon. And my boss was like, that's crazy. You can't have a band of this level play a record store, Cindy. You're out of your mind. And I said to him, you've never been to South by Southwest. That's one of the premium gigs. And so the morning of our show, I remember calling Chris, who was not my husband at the time, and I saying to him, hey, can you tell me where to park? Because he was our logistics guy. And he's like giving me instructions, but he's like, but Cindy, do you have any idea how many people are here? I said, no, just tell me where to park. Like, I'm good. I walked over, and already an hour before our show, the entire parking lot was filled up. The barricades, beyond the barricade, there were crazy amounts of people. And so I remember just taking 30 seconds of She's Not There on my phone and sending that to my boss and being like, I think we're doing okay.
Hi everyone, Colin Blonson from the Zombies here. I just wanted to let you know that tickets for the Zombies Festival begin here in St Albans are on sale from today. Hope to see you there.
Love runs high in this time, give it to me easy, and let me try with pleasured hands to take you in the sun to promised lands, to show you everyone it's the time of the season for loving.
Wow, good. More than okay. So many things to unpack here. First of all, when you said you didn't have a lot of experience in a job you did, you had more experience than Colin did in insurance. And we saw that in the documentary, which we're going to mention in a moment. But I have to say, I was a teacher in another life for over 30 years. And I love the fact that when the person said, find your instrument, that you said, I'm still looking, it's still going. Once you stop trying to improve, you're done. And that's what I love about the Zombies. They don't come out and just sing their hits. I mean, they had an album 2 or 3 years ago. Who in their 70s puts out an, when you're the pedigree of them, you don't have anything to prove, but
and that album is wonderful.
Phenomenal.
Different Game is such a great album.
Great album. But also, what's interesting is that you said something that I said to both of them. I said, I know you can't see the audience so well from the stage. And I said to them, do you have any idea how many young people in the audience are? Because, by the way, I was online with them getting in.
Yeah.
And they said, yes, it's amazing. So
funny story at South by, the very first South by, I remember having to pull like 2 or 3 girls off the stage. And they were literally in their early 20s.
Right.
They just got up there when they were singing Time of the Season and started dancing. And I was like, oh, this can't happen. So I went around the back. And I was like pulling them off the stage. And I remember the girls looking at me. They said, but Mr. Argent said it was okay. And I started laughing. I was like, yeah, no, we're going to take that now. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. It's so wonderful, your whole philosophy. And, I want to talk for a moment about the documentary Hung Up on a Dream, premiered at SXSW. And the Begin Here Festival continues to grow in St. Albans. We're going to talk about that. How do projects like these deepen the connection between artists and their audiences?
Well, I think that I mean, look, we are in the world of fan engagement, right? So what I love about our documentary is well, first of all, I think that Robert Schwartzman did a brilliant job with this film. As a musician, as a storyteller, I think he did, and especially with what footage we had from the 60s. But look, it took a long time and a lot of people's footage. We had several documentary teams before that didn't work out, which is a whole other thing. Um, but what I love is that we do show in our film so much of that love relationship between the band and their fans. And that sort of takes me into Begin Here, because outside of this documentary, which is beautiful and really is like the band, I think it's a love story to their fans, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a story of appreciation and perseverance and kindness and letting you know that the good guys can win, you know? But it sort of ties into the festival with the same kind of attitude. This festival is a place for people to hang with the band,
Mm-hmm.
to personally experience 3 days, maybe having lunch next to your favorite artist, like, you know, your favorite Zombie, maybe going to see them do a tiny little talk. It's just a really personal event, you know, and that's it just sits in the ethos of what the Zombies are all about. You know, this is an accessible band
Yes.
in the best way. You know, it's good, clean fun. It's, you know, uh, I don't know. I can answer more
Yeah,
questions about it,
right. The
but I just,
accessibility, yeah, it's who they are. I have to tell you that when I've gone backstage a few times, you ever go to a restaurant and it says, "Please allow, we only serve fresh food, so please allow for a lot of time. It's going to be
Mhm.
whatever." That's what they are. Because if I was online waiting to speak to them, as both a fan and someone, because they've been on my show, but they speak to everybody like it's the most important person on the line. Some of whom they've met before, some of whom they have not. Uh, they're so wholesome. How many people typically? How long have they been doing the festival?
This is going to be our third time.
Okay, and how many people typically?
Well, so our first 2 years, the first year was like crazy. We had about 60 people there,
Mhm.
because I think it was about 60 people. I just know that it was very rushed.
Mhm.
I think we went on sale in September and we had the festival in November. You know what I mean? It was
That's
fast.
very fast. Yep.
It was very fast. I I kind of had done it because I saw, well, a couple things. We had done a gig on the Mersey Ferry in Liverpool once, and I just saw how much love that city pours into the Beatles. And I thought, okay, we're not the Beatles. I get it. We're smaller, but we could have our own festival. It'd be amazing. And we do so well on the cruises, and they
Yeah.
interact with all the fans and stuff. And it, like, so I kept thinking, they're not going to be able to do that forever. Why not bring the fans to them?
Mhm.
That's what we can do, you know, because they're 80. They're going to be, Colin's going to be 81 in June. So, you know, got to make it easier on them, kind of
Right.
thing, for them to be the same kind of people that they enjoy being. But the second year we had about 150 people,
Wow.
and this year I expect at least 500. You
Wow.
know, it's a small experience. It's exclusive.
Right.
It's relatively inexpensive.
Mhm.
I mean, 130 pounds for a weekend with the Zombies. I want to make it very clear. There is one charge for the festival. It's not a 130-pound ticket for seat in the cathedral, which Colin's going to do this massively beautiful concert, an acoustic candlelight concert in the cathedral. But it's not that. It's 130 pounds and you get the whole weekend. The only add-on that we're doing is if you want to do the secret Sunday brunch, and you better get them quick because there's only like 40 tickets available for that. But and that gets you in like the first 10 rows of the cathedral, or is it first 9 rows of the cathedral. And then right now we're selling just the platinum badges and the gold badges, which then gives you a seat. The gold badge will give you a seat in rows 10 through 20 inside the cathedral. But that gives you a pass for the whole weekend. So you can go. And this year, I mean, every year we do different activities. This year, for all you zombie fans out there, Paul Arnold, the original bass player before Chris White, is coming to speak at Begin Here, talk about what it was like to leave the zombies before they had their success. I mean, is it bittersweet? Is he happy that he had his career as a doctor, or does he kind of wish he ran around the world with the zombies? I don't know. We're gonna get to hear from him for the very first time, so that's cool. We're gonna have a record shop, our own record shop, because we have our own label now.
Wow.
And we're putting out these mono reissues that I'm sure you already have talked to the guys about. We put out Odyssey and Oracle last year. We put out Begin Here just 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. And these are all mono reissues being carefully curated by the band. Chris White's sons, Jamie and Matthew, are working with Alec Palau and Nick Robbins. The 4 of them are really curating these albums. I'm upset because I can't remember the name of the mastering engineer, but he's incredible too. Or maybe that's Nick Robbins. Anyway, my point is, no, it's not. It's actually not. It's somebody in LA, and I'll remember it. But these reissues will be available there, and the guys will sign them.
Yeah.
And we might even have our next album out by then, which is called Continue Here, but not to talk about yet.
Yes. Well, could you give us because we only have about 30 seconds left, could you give us a website to go to? We'll throw it up here as well.
Yep. Just go to thezombiesmusic.com. There's a Begin Here festival tab, and you can just get your tickets there.
Great. Well, Cindy da Silva, thank you for being here today. I'm sure the people who attend the Begin Here Festival will walk away with a lifetime of memories. Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.